The pen felt like ice in my hand as I stared at the document my mother slid across the polished mahogany table, her eyes locked on mine with that familiar mix of disappointment and command. "Sign it, Thea, or you can kiss your place in this family goodbye," she said, her voice low but cutting through the silence of the estate parlor like a blade. In that instant, with the paper demanding I renounce any recognition of the child I shared with my wife Wren, I realized the true price of the life I had chosen and the battle I was about to wage. I had driven from our quiet home in Charleston to the sprawling Harrington family estate, just outside the city, my heart racing the entire 2-hour trip. Wren had insisted on coming with me, her hand resting protectively on her belly, even though our daughter Lily was already born and thriving at home with a sitter. She waited in the car outside the iron gates, texting me every few minutes with words of strength. "I love you no matter what this ends up being," she wrote. "You are not alone." But I knew this fight was mine to start. The family had called this gathering under the pretense of discussing the estate trust, but everyone knew the real agenda. My conservative parents, who built their real estate empire from nothing, expected me, their eldest daughter, to uphold the legacy with a traditional marriage and heirs, not this, as they called it, unnatural arrangement with another woman. The parlor smelled of aged leather and fresh-cut flowers from the garden, the same room where I had announced my engagement to Wren 5 years earlier, only to be met with stunned silence and later outright rejection. My father Robert sat at the head of the table, his jaw set, his hands folded tightly. He had suffered a mild heart scare last year, and the family doctor warned that stress could worsen it. My mother Eleanor used that like a weapon. "Think of your father, Thea," she continued, her tone softening just enough to twist the knife. "He built this for you and your future children, real children, not this experiment." The document was clear in cold legal language. I had to declare that I would not recognize Lily as my daughter in any family or legal context tied to Wren, that I would distance myself from the marriage and allow the family to guide me toward a more acceptable path. Refusal meant immediate removal from the trust, disinheritance from the multimillion-dollar properties, and social exile from the circles that had defined my world since childhood. My sister Claire sat beside my Aunt Margaret, her eyes darting away when I looked at her. Claire had been my closest ally, once the one who covered for me during secret dates, but lately she had shifted, siding with our parents to protect her own slice of the inheritance. Betrayal from blood hurt deepest. I felt the familiar pull, the internal storm that had raged since the day Wren and I decided to start our family. We chose IVF with my egg and an anonymous donor, Wren carrying Lily to term so our daughter would have my blood and Wren's nurturing strength. The pregnancy had been a miracle, filled with late-night cravings, doctor's appointments, and the pure joy of feeling kicks together. But the moment the family learned the news through a leaked ultrasound photo, the pressure began. Phone calls at all hours, emotional appeals about ruining the family name, and now this ultimatum at the family meeting they had scheduled for next week, but moved up to trap me today. I set the pen down without signing, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. "I need time to think about this," I said, buying the moments I needed. My mother nodded, satisfied for now, but her eyes narrowed. "Do not make us wait long, Thea. Your place here depends on it." As I left the room, I glanced back at the portraits of our ancestors, staring down in silent judgment. Society outside these walls was no kinder whispers at charity events, sidelong glances at the country club where same-sex couples were still novelties in our circle. The prejudice was not always loud, it hid in polite exclusions and assumptions that our family could never be real. I drove back to Wren, replaying every word, the weight of their expectations crushing against the love that had saved me. At home, Lily cooed in her crib, her dark hair so much like mine, and Wren pulled me into her arms. "We knew this was coming," she whispered, "but we are stronger together." That night I lay awake, the moral dilemma tearing at me. Was loyalty to blood thicker than the life I had built, or was denying my heart the real sin? I secretly arranged for the DNA test the next morning, proof that no document could erase. Lily was mine biologically, and nothing they said could change that. The family meeting next week would be the turning point, but the cost already felt immense, the potential loss of security, career ties, and parental love hanging like a shadow over every decision. The drive home from the estate blurred into a haze of streetlights and second guesses as I gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary. Wren greeted me at the door, her eyes searching my face for answers the way she always did when the family storms hit. I told her everything, the document, the threats, and my refusal to sign on the spot. She held Lily close, rocking our daughter gently, her voice calm but edged with worry. "They want to erase us, Thea, like we are some mistake, but we are not." That night, as Lily slept between us, I let the memories flood back to the day I met Ren at a quiet art gallery opening in Atlanta where I had moved for work to escape the constant family oversight in Charleston. Ren was exhibiting her paintings, bold strokes of color that captured couples in tender moments, the kind of art that spoke of freedom I had never allowed myself to dream about. I was there as a favor to a client, but one conversation with her changed everything. Her laugh was soft, her insights sharp, and within weeks we were sneaking dates in hidden cafes, avoiding my family's radar. Coming out to them had been a disaster, my father slamming his fist on the table, my mother crying about the shame it would bring to the Harrington name in their tight-knit conservative circles. They cut me off financially for 6 months, hoping I would come back to my senses, but I built my own life as a corporate lawyer, climbing the ranks on merit alone. Ren stood by me through every argument, every tear, encouraging me to choose love over legacy. When we married in a small private ceremony on the beach with only close friends, it felt like victory. But the family never truly accepted it, sending polite but cold regrets to the invitation. The decision to have Lily came after years of quiet talks. We wanted a child who carried part of me, so we chose the IVF path, my egg, Ren's body, the perfect blend of our commitment. The pregnancy brought us closer, Ren glowing with life despite the morning sickness, and the subtle prejudice from strangers who assumed we were just roommates or sisters. At work, colleagues offered congratulations, but the undertones lingered, questions about how it would affect my promotion chances in a firm still dominated by old-school views. I pushed through the guilt that crept in during quiet moments, wondering if I was selfish for bringing a child into a world that might judge her for having 2 moms. But seeing Ren cradle her growing belly erased those doubts. The birth was intense, Ren squeezing my hand through every contraction, and when Lily arrived with her first cry, I knew no family pressure could undo this bond. Now back in the present, the pressure escalated with daily calls from my mother reminding me of my father's health and the family reputation at stake. My sister Claire texted me privately pretending concern, but I knew she had been the one feeding details to our parents. One evening she called outright, her voice laced with false sympathy. "Thea, think about what this does to all of us. The social club is already whispering, and if you keep this up, the trust fund for the grandkids will exclude yours." I hung up, shaking, the betrayal cutting deep. Ren and I argued that night, not out of anger but fear. She asked if I would ever choose them over us, her eyes glistening. I swore I would not, but the moral weight pressed on me, the trade-off between the stability I grew up with and the authentic life we had carved. Sleepless nights followed, filled with visions of Lily growing up without the extended family I once took for granted. Yet every time I looked at the DNA envelope I had hidden in my desk, the proof that biology tied us irrefutably, I felt a spark of defiance. The family meeting was approaching, and I knew I had to prepare, not just with papers, but with the strength to face the confrontations head-on. The price of standing firm could mean losing everything, but the cost of surrender would be my soul. Weeks blurred into a tense countdown as the family meeting loomed, and the calls from my mother grew more insistent, each one chipping away at my resolve. Eleanor would start with concern about my father's latest checkup, his heart medication not enough to calm the stress she claimed I was causing, then pivot to the document. "Sign it, Thea, and we can still salvage your place in the will," she would say, her voice trembling just enough to make me question my choices. I spent hours in my home office reviewing the legal language with my own lawyer friend, a discreet ally who confirmed the papers were designed to strip any parental recognition and block Lily from any future claims on the estate. The social prejudice outside our home added layers, Ren coming home from her graphic design studio with stories of clients who suddenly pulled projects after learning about our family setup, polite excuses masking the discomfort. One afternoon Claire showed up unannounced at our door, her face a mask of sisterly worry, but her words carried the family's script. "I am doing this because I love you," she said over coffee while Ren took Lily for a walk to give us space. "The family is offering a compromise. If you sign, they will still support you privately, but publicly you distance yourself from the marriage. It is for Lily's sake too. Think of the teasing she will face in school, the questions about her moms." The guilt hit hard. I had grown up shielded by the Harrington name, the private schools, the connections that opened doors. Was I condemning my daughter to the same whispers I had endured after coming out, the sidelong glances at family events where I brought Ren and saw relatives avert their eyes? Claire left with a hug that felt hollow, and I sat alone replaying childhood memories of my father teaching me the business, expecting me to marry well and continue the line. The internal conflict raged louder at night when I held Ren close, her steady breathing a reminder of the home we had built against the odds. Flashbacks to the coming out dinner flooded me the way my Aunt Margaret had gasped and left the table, my brother James staring at his plate in silence. They had hoped time would fix it, but Lily's birth shattered that illusion. Societal judgment seeped into everyday moments at the park where other mothers hesitated to let their kids play with Lily, or at the pediatrician where forms asked for father information, forcing awkward explanations. Wren bore it with grace, but I saw the toll in her quiet moments, the way she researched support groups for lesbian families. The moral dilemma deepened. Was I being selfish by fighting for our truth, or was yielding to family the greater betrayal of the values I wanted to teach Lily about courage and love? I confided in Wren one evening over dinner, the weight of potential disinheritance hanging between us. If I lose the trust fund, we lose the house, the security for Lily, she said softly, but her eyes held fire. We can rebuild, but we cannot rebuild us if you break under this. Her words anchored me, and I decided then to attend the meeting armed with more than words. The days leading up were filled with preparations. I met with my lawyer to draft a counterstatement and gathered financial records to show I could stand on my own if cut off. Yet the fear lingered. The price of defiance could mean starting over without the safety net I had always relied on. One night Lily woke crying, and as I rocked her I whispered promises that no document would ever erase her place in my life. The family meeting was now days away, and the tension built like a gathering storm, each decision carrying the heavy cost of love against legacy. I knew the confrontations would test every part of me, but for Wren and Lily I was ready to pay it. The morning of the family meeting dawned gray and heavy, matching the knot in my stomach as I dressed in my sharpest suit, the DNA envelope tucked securely in my briefcase. Wren kissed me goodbye at the door, her embrace tight and reassuring. "Bring our truth home," she said, her voice steady. Lily waved from her high chair, oblivious to the storm. The drive to the estate felt longer than ever, every mile amplifying the flashbacks to smaller betrayals, the way Claire had once promised to stand with me at my wedding only to later side with our parents in private calls. The prejudice from society had prepared me for this, the times Wren and I were denied joint accounts or faced awkward silences at professional events, but nothing compared to the internal war of family loyalty. I arrived to find the entire clan assembled in the grand ballroom converted for the occasion, my father at the head, my mother beside him, aunts, uncles and cousins filling the seats like a jury. The air crackled with expectation as the family lawyer presented the document again, this time in front of everyone. "Thea, this is for the preservation of our legacy," he said, his tone clinical. "By signing you agree not to recognize the child as part of your union with Wren, ensuring the Harrington name and assets remain protected from claims that do not align with our values." Murmurs rippled through the room, some nodding in agreement, others avoiding my gaze. My Aunt Margaret spoke up, her voice sharp. "We have tolerated your choices, but bringing a child into it crosses a line. Think of the example you set for the younger ones." I stood slowly, my heart pounding but my voice clear. "I will not sign," I said, the words landing like stones. The room erupted, my mother gasping, my father slamming his hand on the table. Claire leaned forward, her betrayal complete as she revealed she had been the one pushing the meeting forward. "I did it to save you from yourself," she said, her eyes pleading but cold. "The family name is bigger than your feelings, Thea." The confrontation escalated with accusations flying, the moral weight of their words pressing on me. They spoke of duty, tradition, the sacrifices my parents made for my education, my career, all to be thrown away for what they called a phase. I countered with the reality of my love for Wren, the joy Lily brought, the strength our family of three gave me. The trade-off was laid bare: lose the inheritance, the connections, or lose myself. As voices rose, I felt the psychological toll, the years of guilt resurfacing, but also the awakening that their approval was never mine to earn. Wren had texted support throughout, and that anchored me. The meeting stretched into hours with breaks for private talks, my father pulling me aside, his voice cracking with rare emotion. "I built this for you," he said, "but you are choosing a path that breaks my heart." The betrayal from Claire stung deepest, her whispered, "I told them everything to protect the family," echoing in my mind. Societal prejudice paled compared to this intimate rejection, the way relatives I once loved now viewed my life as a threat. Yet in the midst of it all I held firm, the decision to fight rooted in the actions that defined me, the choice to love openly, the commitment to raise Lily with truth. By the end of the session they adjourned without resolution, giving me one final week, but I knew the lines were drawn. The price was already being paid in strained relationships, lost trust, and the emotional exhaustion that followed me home. Wren listened as I recounted every detail, holding me as I processed the cost. "We may lose everything financially," she said, "but we keep each other. That night with Lily between us, I reflected on the moral dilemma: was standing against blood the right choice, or was I tearing apart what remained of my roots? The climax was building, and I knew the next gathering would demand the DNA proof I carried like a shield. Tension simmered in the days after the initial meeting as my phone buzzed nonstop with messages from relatives urging me to reconsider the document. My mother sent long emails detailing the financial fallout if I refused the disinheritance that would strip me of shares in the family properties the trust fund set aside for grandchildren. I read them late at night while Ren slept, the words blurring through tears of frustration. The internal conflict peaked during a quiet afternoon when I sat with Lily on the floor watching her stack blocks, her laughter a stark contrast to the storm outside our home. Was I selfish for refusing to bend, or was the real selfishness denying her the full story of her mother's love? Society added its layer with a neighbor casually mentioning how hard it must be raising a child without a father figure, the prejudice subtle but constant. Claire called again, her voice softer this time, but the betrayal lingered. I am sorry for how it came out, but the family is worried about your future, she said. They want to help if you sign. I confronted her about the leaks, the way she had shared details of our pregnancy to turn the tide. She admitted it without shame, claiming it was for my own good, the moral high ground she claimed now crumbling under my questions. The confrontation with her over the phone left me drained but clearer. The price of family ties was silence and conformity. Ren and I talked for hours that evening, weighing the options: the potential move to a new city if cut off, the rebuilding of our careers without the safety net. Her support never wavered, but I saw the fear in her eyes, the way she held Lily a little tighter, knowing the trade-off could mean less stability for our daughter. Flashbacks to the pregnancy sustained me: the joy of the first ultrasound, the way Ren and I celebrated with private toasts, the quiet strength we found in each other when family silence followed the announcement. The decision to use my egg had been mine, to give Lily that biological link, hoping it would soften my parents, but it only fueled their denial. Now, with the DNA results in hand, irrefutable proof of maternity, I prepared for the final family council, the big meeting where all branches would converge. I rehearsed my words, the actions that would define the outcome, the stand I would take regardless of the cost. The psychological pressure mounted with nightmares of losing Ren and Lily to some legal twist, but awakening each morning to their faces renewed my resolve. The day of the full gathering arrived, and I drove to the estate alone, this time Ren staying home with Lily to shield them from the immediate fallout. The mansion buzzed with relatives, the air thick with anticipation as we assembled in the ballroom again. The lawyer read the document once more, the demand to deny recognition of the child with my wife hanging in the air. Voices rose in agreement, my aunt leading the charge about protecting the lineage. I listened, the moral dilemma crystallizing in real time, the choice between blood loyalty and authentic love. As the pressure peaked, I stood, the envelope in my hand, ready to reveal the truth that would change everything. The ballroom fell silent as I pulled the DNA results from the envelope, holding them high for all to see, the official seal gleaming under the chandelier light. This proves Lily is my biological daughter, I said, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. No document you force on me can erase that truth or the love Ren and I share as her mothers. The room erupted, my mother gasping, my father rising slowly, his face pale with shock. Claire stared wide-eyed, her betrayal now exposed as the family turned on each other in whispers. How dare you bring science into this? My Aunt Margaret spat, her words laced with the prejudice that had simmered for years. This changes nothing. The child is not a true Harrington, not from a real marriage. The confrontation exploded with accusations flying, the emotional weight crashing down as relatives demanded I sign anyway, claiming biology meant little against tradition. My father spoke last, his voice breaking with the heart condition he had warned about. You are breaking this family, Thea, he said, but in his eyes I saw a flicker of reluctant pride mixed with pain. I stood firm, explaining every decision, the actions that led here, the price I was willing to pay, the estrangement, the lost inheritance, the social isolation. Ren had joined me by then, arriving quietly to stand beside me, her hand in mine, the romantic bond between us visible and unshakable as Lily waited safely at home. The awakening came in that moment, the realization that chosen family held more power than blood ties burdened by outdated expectations. As the meeting dissolved into chaos, some relatives softening with quiet nods, others storming out, the final cost became clear, my name removed from the trust that afternoon via a swift call from the lawyer. We drove home in silence at first, then with tears and laughter, the relief of truth outweighing the loss. Ren held my hand tighter than ever, her support the anchor through the turmoil. Lily greeted us with giggles, oblivious to the battle but safe in the love we fought for. The betrayal from Claire and the family cut deep, but it freed me to build without shadows, the moral choice validated in every hug, every shared moment. Society would still judge, but our home became a fortress of acceptance. In the weeks that followed, the estrangement settled into a new normal, occasional calls from distant cousins, but the core family remained distant. I reflected on the journey, the internal conflicts, the trade-offs, the confrontations that tested every fiber of my being. The price was high: lost security, strained ties. But the gain was profound: a life lived without denial, the strength to raise Lily with honesty. Ren and I grew closer, the romantic spark enduring through the drama, the beautiful partnership that defied the odds. Looking at our daughter playing in the yard, I knew the awakening was complete. Love had won, not without scars but with unbreakable truth. Was choosing my wife and our daughter the right decision, or did I selfishly shatter my family forever?